Lord. Amen.
Amen. All right. Now, pledge. Yep, I don't have the flag on me.
Well, we can do it without the flag. And tell you what, everybody mute and just Eric say the pledge.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Thank you, Marty, for the flag. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters.
Good morning.
Welcome guests. Welcome to our open house. We're glad to have you along. Our guests, we want to introduce our guests this morning, and I'll start with our district director, Linda Lathrop. Linda, thank you so much for coming on. If you want to say a quick hello.
I do. I'm grateful for the opportunity to visit your club this morning and see all of your smiling faces. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you for coming on. Our guest, David Jones. Dave.
Good morning. Finally made it up again. It's worth getting up for.
And Dave is from the Queen City Toastmasters. We appreciate him coming on this morning. And our guest from Canisius College, my friend Malik. Malik, you want to say hello?
Good morning, everyone. Nice to meet everybody.
Thank you for coming on, Malik. Are there any announcements from the floor?
Just one. I am the host today, and Larry and I worked on this, but we weren't able to get the bugs out of the polling. So we do not have the automated polling. In lieu of that, I'm going to have you, once we announce the candidates for Best Speaker, Best Evaluator, Best Table Topics, direct message me, and I will compile the votes, and I will report them to our club officer, Eric, at the end of the meeting. So just, again, when we vote, we won't see the poll come up, so just direct message me with your ballot. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Len, and thank you for filling in for Larry for being the host. Are there any other announcements? No? We'll wait for till the end of the meeting, and I will turn the meeting proceedings over to our Toastmaster of the day, Jen Zapla.
Good morning, everyone, and happy not quite Halloween. I picked a Halloween-ish theme for our open house today, and that is Toastmaster skills to help you survive the zombie apocalypse, because in a year like 2020, it may be coming. We may all be looking for ways to survive the zombie apocalypse. And Toastmasters, of course, can help us do many things. So today, I would like to tell all of you about the things that it will do, and especially to any of our guests today, or anyone who may be joining us after the fact via the stream on YouTube, how Toastmasters can help you survive the zombie apocalypse. So I know many of us in Toastmasters already know that Toastmasters is a worldwide organization covering over 145 countries. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of members in Toastmasters and over 16,000 clubs worldwide. So there's definitely a club near you. And if you ever need help finding one or visiting one, you can check out toastmasters.org, or you can contact anyone that you know in Toastmasters and they will be happy to direct you to a club. Many of our guests today have been to different clubs throughout their areas or even other areas. I know David's joining us from North Carolina, so has never had the chance to join us in person, but I believe has joined several other Toastmasters clubs to check out the world. It's a way to get around the world today. So that is one way that Toastmasters helps you survive the zombie apocalypse, just helping you get around the world without leaving the comfort of your own home. Now, I would like to get into our role holders today. I believe most of them have joined, so we will start out. Actually, you know, I know we did an invocation already, but Kate, if you have one to give us, you're the first person on my list, and I'd love to give you that opportunity. So if you are, I know I saw you. Are you
Yeah.
still with us?
I am with us. The dogs are loud, so I thought it would be a good idea to mute. Thanks for the opportunity. Sorry, I was having technical difficulties. Sure, I'll share this invocation. Non-denominational. Let us take a moment to remember all the religions that are represented in the worldwide Toastmasters family. Let us recall that when we were invited to join Toastmasters, we were not asked if we were a Protestant, Catholic, a Muslim, a Jew, a Buddhist. We were not asked because all the families are welcome in Toastmasters family, all religions. Please join me in a moment of reflection and thanks with these words. With our friends beside us and no person beneath us, with the bonds of Toastmasters between us and our worries behind us, with our goals before us and no task beyond us, with a thirst for knowledge and a dream for a connected world. We are thankful for our Toastmasters friends and the meal we are not sharing together, but wish we were sharing together. So it is our meeting we are sharing this morning. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Kate. Our word master today is Mark Campos.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guests, good morning. Typically as word master, I try to select a word that somewhat ties in with the meeting theme. And Toastmaster skills during the zombie apocalypse posed some challenges for me in that regard, so I went in a little different direction. The club members know that I work for Verizon, and in a recent business setting, a colleague shared with me that they were labeled recently in a derogatory fashion as a Verizon overlord. And I thought, that's awesome. That just sounds so cool. I sort of wish somebody would label me a Verizon overlord, and pretty much an overlord of just about anything. Therefore, today, as your word overlord, I have selected the word overlord, which can either be a noun or a verb. As a noun, one, as a person who is lord over another or over other lords, or number two, a person of great influence, authority, power, or the like. And as a verb, to rule or govern arbitrarily or tyrannically, or to domineer. So fellow Toastmasters, please be sure to use the word overlord, otherwise you will upset your word overlord, Madam Toastmaster.
I think you mean Madam Overlord.
You are Madam Overlord of the meeting, yes.
Yes, exactly. I just wanted to be clear on that. All right, our master today will be Gerald.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. I am the overlord of ahs and pauses and filler words today. I've already got one person marked off before my intro. Fair game, everybody. I'm sure we will do amazing today. I look forward to the meeting. Thank you, Madam Overlord of the zombie apocalypse.
I'm really hoping that I'm not the person you marked down, but you know, I'm talking a lot, so I probably am, and you got to in there if you were listening. Our grammarian today, voluntarily, barely volunteering, was Larry Eggert. So thank you, Larry, for volunteering against your will.
I don't know, barely is the right word for that. Reluctantly, maybe, or just trying to help out, put a positive spin on. I am going to be the grammarian, but I am certainly not an overlord of the use of grammar. However, I will try to do my best to report on the good and the bad of grammar throughout the meeting and report back to the overlord at the end of the meeting. Madam Overlord.
Beth, you will be our quote master today. Do you have a quote to share with us?
Yes, I do. I'm a little out of it this morning, but I finally found what I had found earlier this week and printed, and it's gone. I don't know where it is. I have little hands in my house that move numerous things. So this is what I found as a quote, a zombie apocalypse quote. There's a lot of speculation on what the zombie apocalypse means. I have a feeling
that it's kind of an expression of our subconscious fears. I think we know that something big and impossible, some enormous crash, equalizing crash, whatever, may be coming around the corner. This is from Mark Pellegrino. I think it came this year. I do. So we will see how this goes, but Madam Overlord, I pass it on back to you.
Thank you, Beth. I'm not sure if the zombie apocalypse is quite here yet, but I guess it is debatable. Maybe in November we'll find out for sure, or December, because each month seems to bring something new. Our jester today is Marty. Marty, do you have some humor to share with us? Marty, you're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Yes, I do have something to share. And what I'd like to share regarding along the theme of zombies and survival skills is a question, actually. What kind of dishwashing liquid does a zombie use? Anyone? Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead. And then I'd like to share a very short story out of, it's out of a mindfulness article. And I think some of these authors may be assuming that they are overlords to the readers. And the story is about changes in our life, you know, related to zombies. In the article, the story starts out and it says, in this foggy maze, there are no signposts with arrows assuring you this is the way out. You feel like lost, and you're a zombie-like, or at least unmoored and disoriented as you wander the earth. The old rules don't seem to apply anymore. What used to work no longer does. You feel strange, not like yourself, but something not yet fully formed. Does the caterpillar in its purge stage on the way to butterflyhood ever think to itself, what the hell's going on with me? Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Marty. Our timer today will be Phil Russell. Phil, tell us what you will be doing.
Overlord, overlord, I don't need no stinking overlord. I be the overlord of time. I will be timing the table topics, evaluators, and speakers today. Now, it might be a little bit distracting, but my time for the green light, which in table topics will go on at 1:30. It'll be a little distracting, but you'll get it. The yellow or amber at 1:45. And this is all for table topics. And the red light at 2 minutes. There we go. Now, for our evaluators, I better get that off of there. For our evaluators, I will go with 2 to 3 minutes. The green light at 2 minutes, the amber light at 2:30, and the red light at 3. There we go. And we have our normal speeches are 5 to 7 minutes, which green at 5, amber at 6, and the 7 would be the red light. But I understand Margot is doing a longer speech, 10 to 12 minutes, so it will be green at 10, amber at 11, and 12 at red. And if there is a difference of that, Margot, please let me know, or anybody else that has a different timing. We will take care of it. Madam Overlord.
Thank you, Phil. I think the floating head works out just quite well for this theme today.
I'm trying.
All right. Do we have a gesture master today? Sylvia, are you with us?
I am, Miss Overlord, Madam Overlord. This morning I will be watching, and I already started. I got about 5 things jotted down already of people's gestures, and hopefully we'll have more during the speeches and the table topics. It's quite hard with Zoom, but we will get through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Our quiz master today, Charlie Deacon. Charlie, tell us what your job is.
Madam Overlord, my job is to listen to what people say during the meeting and have a little quiz at the end of the meeting. Thank you, Madam Lord.
Thank you, Charlie. And finally, our general evaluator, Eric, tell us what your job will be today.
Oh, thank you, Madam Overlord. I'll be the general evaluator. I will evaluate the Toastmaster and the evaluators, and I look forward to giving my report towards the end of our meeting today. Madam Overlord.
Thank you, Eric. You guys, I'm really getting used to this title. How do I get people to call me this in real life? Is there a way? Because I think this should just be happening from now on.
Do an advertisement.
An advertisement. Okay, I'll put up an ad. All right. Well, before we get into the next portion of our meeting, I want to share with you a couple of the core competencies of Toastmasters and how these skills can help you survive the zombie apocalypse. So the number one core competency is public speaking. Public speaking. Now you may be thinking to yourself, how could this help me survive the zombie apocalypse? But here at Toastmasters, one of the things that we learn to do is how to speak. And more importantly, when to speak and when to listen. Public speaking isn't just about the speaking itself. It's also about the absence of speaking. And I think you can all relate to the fact that if there is a zombie apocalypse, there are going to be times when you need to shut your mouth. So, public speaking, when to do it, when not to do it. And not just that, but how to do it. For example, you may need to speak very quietly in some circumstances, so that you don't alert the zombies to your presence, while in others, you may need to be very commanding with the people that you are trying to get to contribute or do a task. So this is why public speaking is going to help you survive the zombie apocalypse. Interpersonal communication is core competency number 2. And I think that we can all understand that it's important to be interpersonal with other people so that you're not mistaken for a zombie. All right, so those are 2 core competencies that are going to help you survive the zombie apocalypse. Now I'm going to turn it over to our table topics master today, Tom Moran.
Thank you, Madam Overlord. I don't think you'll have a problem with people referring to you as Overlord. It seems to, in your case, roll off the tongue very smooth. It seems appropriate, actually. So I don't think you'll have an issue with that. I think, and I appreciate you discussing some of the aspects of Toastmastering that might help during a zombie apocalypse. But one of the things that is going to be called on for Toastmasters is leadership. Now, whenever there's a zombie apocalypse, they're always looking for someone to take charge. Now, I don't think anybody would be more appropriate for a job like that than Tracy Farrell. Now, Tracy has shown extensive leadership in our group and also when she does what she does for a living in her job. So, Tracy, could you be the overlord of the zombie apocalypse and take care of the people around you? And what would that process look like? Tracy Farrell.
Thank you, overlord of the table topics today. Part of what I've been doing during this COVID thing is trying not to fall under the overlords of the government and of commercial entities. I'm kind of looking to be more self-sufficient. And being more self-sufficient would be taking care of myself, my family, and my loved ones. As part of that, I have a huge stock of toilet paper right now. People are thinking, oh my God, what is wrong with you? But of course, I order all of my supplies online, and every time I do, there's 2 more big bags of toilet paper coming. It's getting to be a little crazy. I'm also getting more into, because of COVID, I'm learning more how to be healthier and getting organic fruits and vegetables and learning how to grow more things. I've also learned how to can. I've made my own tomato sauce this year. A lot of you know that I've made wine in the past, so I am set with toilet paper and wine for the next apocalypse. I'm learning how to can, so that should take care of a lot of my foods. Being more self-sufficient is not relying on the government, not relying on commercial. I'm a government employee, but I also know never rely on the government. You should be able to rely on yourself. So that would be my encouragement to everybody. Be more self-sufficient because nobody else can take care of you. You need to take care of yourself. Thank you, Overlord of Table Topics.
Thank you, Tracy. And those are some good insights, just in case this does happen to us. So be prepared. That was, I guess, the message. I'm often curious. I don't know too much about zombies, but I'm awfully curious about what happens to a person when they become a zombie. Now, when I was originally looking at people to address this, Katie was not on the schedule. Well, she was on the schedule, but she wasn't there yet. So her invocation was done by Dave Licata, and now she went and did one, but I'm not going to let her pass on that. I'm going to ask Katie, what exactly happens to a person and how do they become a zombie? For those individuals here at Toastmasters who aren't really aware of that whole process, and do you have any idea what that might even feel like? Katie Banks.
All I'm saying to our guests is you had better join Toastmasters so you have the skills to survive the zombie apocalypse. You would think that I would get into this side of the supernatural. I do not. I could watch movies about werewolves or vampires or mummies all day long, but the zombie ones, the zombie stories, the zombie movies, I have zero interest in. Maybe because it's so true already. And in some ways, we see people just on their phones all the time. I think that's the form of zombie that our world has come to. We are just talking to Tracy's topic of just being commercialized and sucked into following what we're supposed to do. I think that's the kind of zombie that I see. So maybe it's a little too close to home that people constantly are in their own worlds, or they're zoned out on their phones, or they're just I don't know, a cog in the machine, and we all are like that. But I suppose if I had to think of Mr. Overlord of Table Topics for not letting me get off the hook, what must be like to be a zombie? Okay, so have you all seen the movie Hocus Pocus? Billy is one of my favorite characters. He's not on very much, but Moklis's background made me think of it. Billy is the character played by Doug Jones, who I met in real life at a Comic-Con. He's amazing, and he's the character that is the zombie that is brought back to life, but then becomes a hero at the end because he saves the day. No spoilers, it's an old movie. I'm sure if you wanted to see it, you've seen it before. But he was in love with one of the witches, but then he was in love with her sister, and there was a whole cheating situation back in the 1600s or something. But one of the witches, Bette Midler, brings him back to life, and he must be her minion. I think having minions is the Overlord connection. I better wrap up. I got the red light. Double. All right. Thank you, Mr. Overlord. Table Topics.
Thank you, Katie. You don't need to refer to me as an overlord. I'm not that type. I don't demand a title like that. I was kind of hoping, Katie, that you would go into that whole process about how a person becomes a zombie. I mean, there is an original zombie, and then there's someone who gets bitten by a zombie, and then they turn into a zombie, and they create this whole subculture of zombies that are looking for other people to bite and turn into zombies. So, Moklis, I was kind of hoping that you could address this. I'm going to give you a scenario, And it usually happens in these zombie stories that a person, say you, Moklis, and your wife, and you have 2 children, and you're protecting your family. You're keeping them away from the zombies, and everything is going fine. And then all at once you find out that perhaps your youngest child was bitten by a zombie and will turn into a zombie as well. And if not dealt with, will infect the rest of your family. So that is a dilemma for a lot of people. Can you tell me what do you do in this case? How do you rationalize that whole thought process that you're going to go through? Because you are in fact the overlord of the family. You need to make that decision. So could you address that, Moklis? Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Table Topic Master. I am the overlord of my universe, and I feel you described it correctly. One way people become zombies if somebody is bitten by a zombie. I always loved the song by Michael Jackson. What is the song where the zombies come and start dancing with him? I think I'll become the overlord of those zombies into a dance sequel. And once I get them into the dance, I will be able to take them to wherever they came from and leave them right there. If I may ask a guest, Malik Stubborn, if he knows anything about zombie, maybe he can help me. Is Malik, are you available?
You mean Malik?
Malik, yeah, Malik. The guest who's...
Malik, are you there? No?
Okay, so I'll continue then. Sorry about the interruption. I just wanted to get an international or a different perspective. Zombies are great in movies, and I think even in life, if not in real, but in dreams, I've often dreamt about zombies, and after the Michael Jackson song, I used to dance with all the zombies, and I used to get very familiar and have a lot of fun. And of course, I don't want the zombie to take away my son, so I'm going to take him with me and then make sure all the zombies go into their grave. And then we take a Jetson's flight back to our home, so they can't follow us, because if we walk, they will be able to follow us. So zombies are great, but they should belong to the graveyard or cemetery, and then we should go there if need be. Mr. Table Topic Master.
Thank you, Moklis. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in our overlord, there are 3 table topics for you to judge. Could we have a timer's report on that, Mr. Timer, Phil Russell?
Yes, table topics overlord. Tracy, 150.44. Kate, 212.63. Moklis, 207.97. Mr. Table Topics Overlord.
Thank you. What does that mean, Phil?
They all qualify.
They all qualify. Thank you. And our wordmaster report, Campos, did everyone use the word this morning?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Overlord. I am happy to report that all 3 contestants did use the word multiple times. Tracy leading with 3, Kate tied her with 3 as well, and Moklis used it twice. Fellow Toastmasters, your word overlord is very pleased thus far. We have had a very strong start, but the true test is to maintain our level of overlord usage. So let's not let it peter out. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wordmaster. And you should send your vote to our Toastmaster Len Thornton on chat, but send it directly to Len and he will tabulate everything. I'll turn the meeting back over to our overlord Toastmaster, Jen Zappa.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. I appreciate it. You actually got to core competency number 3 during table topics. Strategic leadership, you mentioned, is important. And of course, why is leadership important? It's important in every aspect of our life. And maybe the biggest reason why is because if you're anything like me, do you really trust anyone else as much as you trust yourself to lead and make sure that you survive the zombie apocalypse? Probably not. So you need to have a good strategy. So strategic leadership is important. Everyone needs to come together during a time like that. And who better to lead the group than you for survival? And number 4 is management. There are a lot of things that need to be managed during a zombie apocalypse. Tracy mentioned supplies. You need to make sure you have wine and toilet paper. Otherwise, that zombie apocalypse is just not going to be any fun. So managing your resources, your people, you need a plan, and all of those things take management. So just one more reason why Toastmasters will help you survive. Now let's get started with our speaking portion of the meeting today. We will begin by introducing our evaluator, number 1, Jackie Kenny. Tell us what Margot will be doing today.
Thank you, Madam Overlord, or Dark Empress, if you prefer. Margot has been a Toastmaster since January of 1998, so we can expect a lot when we hear Margot speak. This project is a reflection on the current path that she has been in, leadership development, and she's going to give us a 10 to 12-minute speech reflecting on what she's done, what she's learned, and how she's grown in this path. Thank you, Madam Overlord.
Thank you. So let's turn it over to Margot with her speech, One Step at a Time.
Thank you, Madam Overlord. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and our guests. When you've been in Toastmasters as long as I have, it's hard to just look at one path. So I'd like to invite you to join me back in October of 1997. In October of 1997, Judy Staples invited me, Jerry Steicha, and Jim Luckman to a Toastmasters meeting since she thought it could help us. And we all sat at one table back in the what was then Friendly's. While we were doing that, table topics came up. They said, somebody from Barker has to take table topics, Judy, you pick. And she looked at the 3 of us. Jerry and Jim in one voice said, you're the board president, you do it. I spoke for 1 minute and 14 seconds. I had enough information in my speech that I could actually have done a 5 to 7 speech. I spoke a little quickly then. I then decided this was an organization for me, and I joined. And for some reason, when I mailed my check to Toastmasters, it didn't get credit until January 1st. By the time January 1st came, I had already given 2 speeches. Now remember, these are the days of snail mail. This isn't like you could go online and just let your bills be paid. You had to write a check, give it to the treasurer, who had to deposit and write a check and take your form and snail mail it into Toastmasters, which was probably the delay. I got my CTM, who remembers CTM? In 9 months. Yep, like giving birth to a baby. If somebody didn't show up, I had a speech every blessed meeting. I think people got pretty sick of hearing me. And I heard one comment in the manual that I found, because yes, I found my original manual, slow down. I think I'm a little slower today. I'm not sure how much slower. I then went on to get my ATM, Advanced Toastmasters, that's what it was called back then. And to do that, we had to do a number of different projects. One of them was to speak from the Better Club series or the Better Speaker series. At that point, you sent away to Toastmasters and you received a packet that included a speech and overheads. Kate, I don't even think when you were a teacher, you used overheads. I have to be honest, folks, those were the worst written speeches I have ever seen in my life. They were so cut and dry, and everybody was supposed to read this manual. I don't tend to do things the way most people do, as you probably have guessed. So I played Jeopardy! I took the Better Club series, the roles and responsibilities, and I did a whole Jeopardy! Game. My evaluator that day was a very experienced Toastmasters who took offense to my changing Toastmasters words. How could I do that? It was horrible. Everybody else seemed to enjoy it. I also started working on some of the leadership aspects of it. I mentored a club. I mentored the Noon Club. At the time, there were 8 members. And I remember Phil and Dave showing up with me to go and lead this group. And we tried to get them on track. Unfortunately, it didn't work. I did mentor a later club when I was area governor. Yes, a busy year, area governor and mentoring a club. And I got the credit for doing it back then. About this time, Toastmasters realized people weren't doing the leadership end of Toastmasters, and we all got a leadership book that we were expected to bring to every meeting. And whatever role you played, whatever you did, in or out of Toastmasters, there was a place to fill it in. And it helped keep a lot of people organized. And thanks to that booklet, I actually got everything done and moved on to actually get my DTM in 2008. Yes, it's been 12 years. Can you believe that? 12 years. Toastmasters changed and the manuals changed and they started to look like this. And instead of a CTM, I got a CC. I actually have 4 of those because I did the speeches over and over. Somebody once asked me, why do you keep doing the speeches over and over? Number 1, it's a different topic. And number 2, I always learn something, either from my evaluator or from watching other people do it, or just by staying in the group. When I was doing my ATM and it moved on to ATM Bronze, we ended up having more manuals. When I first bought the set of books, it was a set of 10 books and it cost $15. Today, sorry, I'm trying to get my timer back because Phil just disappeared on me. I don't know where Phil is. Anyway, I will find you. There's Phil. So I bought the whole manuals and I jumped around. I might do storytelling one week and something else the next week. Might do speeches for management. And we kept jumping around. They added more books and we ended up with a set of 15 books that we could jump through. Now, one thing I loved about having all those books was I do a little bit of public speaking outside of Toastmasters. So if I had to give a presentation, I could find a topic that I could actually take to the club and have them help me. Whether it was a sermon for my temple, a toast for Farm Bureau, when I started to develop my many hats of farmer wears for Aggie culture, sorry about the bad pun, I would bring it to Toastmasters and everybody there could help me between the notes and my evaluation. So then we get to pathways. My challenge with pathways, number 1, was I'm old and I don't like change. Sorry, folks, I don't like change. I'm at that stage of my life. Number 2, as with those beginning speeches, I had trouble figuring out which path to choose because the descriptions were not as complete and some of the way it was presented was difficult for me. Now, some of the changes Toastmasters had made since I began my path were great. You could go ahead and look what was in a path. You could do more analysis. You could find the evaluations. You could actually find things on their website now, which actually is problem number 2 with pathways is I like to hold a book in my hands. I like to hold it, but I don't really want to pay the money for it. So I picked a leadership pathway thinking, well, I've been here long enough. Let's see what I can do. The first thing I had to do was an icebreaker. Well, I've given 5 icebreakers already, so what's one more? My first icebreaker actually was called Standing on Your Baggage. And I used that one as the core for the icebreaker. I did this one. I should tell you, when I gave that icebreaker, I was told that I could have given all 10 speeches in one. and I spoke a little quickly. I didn't do that with this icebreaker. One of the notes was, hey, you've slowed down. And it was geared toward leadership in business, since that's what I'm doing full time today. And as I went through all the speeches, I didn't find as much fun in developing the speeches. It seemed to be a little more regimented to me. And so I was trying to pick things and pull them in when I did the social speeches, when I did my research, when I did the evaluation, that would actually enhance my experience a little bit more. And then things in my regular business, well, I felt like I was giving a report. When I did the speech on social media a few months back, I spoke about how we had blown up on Facebook with doing our first Spirits and Spirits, and how we got all these followers. It was a fun experience, it was, but quite frankly, it's not the type of speech that I would have normally given, which leads me to think that I probably picked the wrong path, which goes back to communication, which goes back to the descriptions of the path. And I see Jen nodding at there because I've told her all this before. There also was something on public relations, and I did leaving a volunteer organization, so I spoke about the wine trail. So now, where am I going to go in the future with all this? Number one, I still have a pile of books. So I've decided as I pick my next book, I'm also going to go back to the old manuals. I'm going to reread what I've written. I'm going to look at the comments and try to match up where I had the most fun and interest as I pick my next path. Because sometimes that's what it's all about. It's not about where you are now, it's about picking the right path for you. Secondly, I'm going to look at the different roles and responsibilities. Now, I know I've been considered the overlord of grammar in this club. It would be nice to do that, but it would be also nice to figure out how to get other people to take on that role. So if the grammarian position is open and I don't have a role, I'm not the first person they have given. I don't know how many of you remember my speech, Our Friend the Adverb, but maybe I need to find a path where I can do more of the, Mark's laughing, yep, he remembers that one. So maybe I need to find a path that will allow me to do more of those kind of speeches and to use it more as a teaching tool. So as I go forward, I would actually like to propose a toast to standing on our path so that we can look backward and see what we learned, to balance where we are and to look to a future full of hope and learning and fun. Madam Overlord.
Thank you, Margot. Our second evaluator today, evaluating Carol Ann, will be Nancy. Nancy, tell us what Carol Ann will be doing today. Nancy, are you there?
I am trying. I have the worst technological challenges this morning. I won't go through them, but I'm on two different things and I keep getting popped off and popped on. But here I am. Thank you very much, Madam Overlord. Today, Carol Ann is going to be sharing with us a story. The purpose of Carol's project is to practice using story within her speech or to give a speech that is a story in itself. Carol may use any type of story, personal, well-known fiction, or one of her own creation. She is particularly working on not using a lot of ands as connectors and ahs. So I will be watching for that. Also, Master, please be my backup. Carol Ann has chosen not to go the Pathways route and is doing a speech from the old curriculum, which I don't have the title of the book that she's working from, but it is from the storytelling. I guess it's a storytelling series. Madam Overlord, do you have her title?
Thank you, Nancy. Yes, I do have her title. Again, it was a 5 to 7 minute speech, and her title is Sea Cruise Continued Shore Excursions. Carol Ann. Carol Ann, hold on. I think you're still on mute. We still can't hear you. Len, can you help us out?
Can you hear me? Okay. Madam Overlord, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. On October 27th of last year, we set sail for the Hawaiian Islands from Long Beach Pier in California. It was November 1st when we arrived in Hilo on the Big Island. And our shore excursion there included a trip to the Volcanoes National Park, where we walked the rim of a dormant volcano. And we also went to an area called Rainbow Falls, which again was very just beautiful sights in Hawaii. And we also tasted some coffee without creamer. So I expected it to be rather bitter, but due to the fact that the coffee in Hawaii is grown in volcanic soil, they have plenty of rain, and it's grown at a high altitude, it's just a smoother coffee. And the next day, we sailed around to the other side of the Big Island, to Kona. And the most amazing thing in Kona that we visited was the painted church. Now this you can see it's just a little white church. However, inside it is painted. And although you can't really tell too much, there's palm trees on the ceiling painted, and murals on each side going down of biblical scenes. And this church is called St. Benedict's, and it was built in 1832. Now to Kona, and also the next day we went to Maui. Our ship couldn't get very close into port, so we had to take tender boats in. So it was a bit of a process and took a while to get in. But on the Big Island, of course, many gift shops are there. So I got a bracelet with pink, a black bracelet, purple and blue, and also a very pretty one with leaves on it. And my granddaughter had been in a play just before we left on our trip, and she played a purple octopus. Well, there was a stuffed purple octopus there, so naturally I had to buy that. When we arrived in Maui, we got on a bus and we went to a pineapple plantation. And then we went to the Io Valley with just amazing scenery. Our bus driver was a woman, but she maneuvered those mountainous highways well to get us there. Although she was a little rough around the edges. She was very knowledgeable, but when she told you to be back on the bus at a certain time, you kind of thought, I think I better be back or she might leave. And our last stop was in Honolulu. The couple we sailed with, and also we had been to Pearl Harbor before on a previous trip. So we chose to go with the shore excursion that they offered concierge guests. And they took us around a few buildings in the city and then to a museum. Well, I was thrilled to go to a museum. However, 2 busloads of us arrived. The museum, for some reason, didn't know we were coming. So we were just waiting around, finding out what to do. The buses had left. There was no way of communicating with the bus, so we're standing around. Finally, our tour guide apologized and bought us all a ticket to go into the museum. However, we only had about an hour left, and a few of us chose to go with a tour guide who took us mainly to the area of the museum that covered Hawaiian history, and that was very interesting. And as a consolation, they took us on a bus trip by Diamond Head. Our last stop on November 10th was in Ensenada, Mexico. Beautiful coastal town. We went on a wine tour, and our tour guide said they were trying to get a better image of Mexico, not drug overlords and violence. And it is a beautiful country. The next day, we were back in Long Beach Pier, and our 15-day wonderful cruise had ended. Madam Overlord.
Thank you. Our third and final evaluator today, evaluating Steve, will be Dave Licata. Dave, can you tell us what Steve will be doing?
Good morning, Mistress Overlord. When I found out that I was going to evaluate Steve Smith this late in October, I went out to Niagara Produce and got the biggest garlic bulb I could find. So I should be safe during this speech. My dear friend Steve is going to work from Pathways today, and he's going to do a project called Connect with the Audience. The purpose of the project is for him to practice his skills that he's already developed, and he's going to be informative. He's going to connect with that audience, and I don't have his title. I hope you do. But I want to say that Steve is my favorite child of the night.
Thank you, Dave. I certainly do have his title. It is a 5 to 7 minute speech for our timer. And his title is Dracula, A Brief History. Steve.
I am Dracula. I bid you welcome. Now, how many times have we heard this in countless movies by countless actors? Now, many of us know that Dracula was written in 1897 by Bram Stoker. What most of us don't realize, that movie was never filmed. They have never followed the book. And one of the biggest problems is Dracula himself. In most, in fact, all of the movies, Dracula is portrayed as the handsome leading man type that make women swoon, that make men afraid. Nothing could be further from what Stoker devised in his book. He had a very ugly, repugnant count who revulsed you just by looking at him and struck fear into your heart. A very ugly looking character. And the only movie that ever even came close to that, and that's about the only thing they got right, was one of the original ones, the silent version by F.W. Marnow, 1922's Nosferatu, or A Symphony in Terror. The only thing they got right was that evil rat-like appearance of Count, and they had to call him Count Orlok because they didn't have permission to use the book. So they changed the name. Dracula became Orlok, Thomas Harker became Hutter, and so on. But that didn't work. They got sued anyway by Stoker's widow, who actually won and ordered all copies destroyed. Fortunately for us, that didn't happen. So we still have some excellent copies of this in existence. They changed the whole story around. They changed the setting. They changed the names. They even eliminated quite a few of the characters, but that didn't matter. They still got sued. But that was an excellent film and a very creepy film if you were into silent films at all. Next, in line would be one of my personal favorites, a 1931 film starring Bela Lugosi. This has become almost a standard bearer of the vampire film, even though it is basically a filmed play, because it was very popular as a play, which inspired them to, hey, we should make a movie out of this. So the progression was from play to movie. Now, Bela Lugosi wasn't even considered for the role, even though he'd done it on Broadway. They didn't want anything to do with him. But they finally wound up with him because he was about the only one left. And fortunately for us, he got the role. It defined him. He defined it as both a blessing and a curse. It made his career, but he was forever typecast as the vampire. Although the only time he actually played Dracula was in the original Dracula and in 1948 in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, when he was much older, but he still looked very much the menacing character of Dracula. He lived the part. He was the part. But there have been countless versions throughout the ages. A horror of Dracula, Hammer's version of that. One of my personal favorites was made in 1977. It was by the BBC. It was a 3-part series. I actually remember watching this as 3 different parts on Channel 17. It starred Louis Jourdan. That was one of the closest to using the book. Now, one of the problems with using the book was, of course, it was so long and there's so many scenes. That didn't even lend itself to doing a play because it starts out in Transylvania. There's the long scene there. There's most movies delete about him and Jonathan Harker, who actually went to Dracula. Not Renfield as in the original version. That was a convention just to speed up the action and condense things. Renfield, now there's a character played by Dwight Frye in the original Dracula, that insane laugh that would just send shivers up your spine. He almost stole the show with that character. That's why that defines the whole movie for me. Now, Christopher Lee made an excellent Dracula. Oh, they just threw the plot out the window from the book and went their own route with it. And it worked. And Louis Jourdan, countless others that I'm not even going to let you into that right now. There's so many of them. And they all had good points and they all had bad points. And now I want to get around to the end of the movie. Now, back in 1931, sound was young. Dubbing into foreign languages was just being experimented with. So what they did, they filmed on the same sets at night the Spanish language version, and at the day they filmed the English language version. And in some aspects, the Spanish language version is a lot better. Now, if they could have Lugosi in the Spanish version, they'd have been doing something. But that didn't work out. The other problem they had was censorship, which leads me to where I'm going to wind up this. There was a whole epilogue at the end of the movie, which the censors deemed, you can't say that, that suggests a belief in the supernatural. And they did the same thing in Frankenstein, but they let him get away with it there. Edward Van Sloan, who makes a brilliant Van Helsing, comes out from behind the curtain and addresses the audience. Just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. A word before you go. We hope the memories of Dracula and Renfield won't give you bad dreams. So just a word of reassurance. When you get home and the lights have been turned out and you're afraid to look behind the curtains and you dread to see a face appear at the windows, why, just pull yourself together and remember that after all, there are such things as vampires. Madam Overlord.
Thank you, Steve. I do happen to have 2 copies of Nosferatu, one with the original piano score and one with the heavy metal alternate score, but they are both on VHS, so a little old. Let's go ahead and get a timers report. Phil, how did our speakers do today?
I do not feel like the Overlord. I feel like the Wizard of Oz with this crazy screen I have in front of me. Now for the timing. Margot qualified at 10:25:32. Carol Ann at 6:24:03. and Steve at 61074. All qualified, Madam Overlord.
Thank you, Phil. So make sure you send your votes for best speaker into Len via private chat. And while you're in there, go ahead and send some comments to our speakers today and let them know how they did. I know everyone appreciates those comments. I do kind of miss getting my envelope of little love notes throughout the meetings over time. So make sure you give people kudos when you can. And now we will actually wait before we move into the evaluation portion. I did forget. I have to share with you the 5th core competency that Toastmasters will give you to help you survive the zombie apocalypse. And that is confidence. Because you need to be confident going into the zombie apocalypse. You don't want to be tentative in your moves. You need to be direct, take action, and Toastmasters will help bring you confidence. I think we've all learned more than we even knew we needed to in that department. Now our first evaluator evaluating Margot will be Jackie Kenny. So Jackie, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Overlord. It was a pleasure to evaluate Margot this morning. Although it's difficult evaluating such an experienced Toastmaster, Margot's goal was to share with us what she's learned on pathways. And I think what she shared with us is that she doesn't really care for pathways, but she's persevering. And I think that's what we all need to learn as Toastmasters. You don't give up because it's difficult. You keep going. You keep learning and you keep growing. That core competency, again, in Toastmasters is something that challenges us and also adds a lot to our lives. I did see Margot get a little distracted searching for the timer at one point, and that kind of surprised me because you are so experienced, Margot. I would think you would be feeling your time as you went along and know at what point you needed to start wrapping up. You have been told since the beginning of your career that you spoke too quickly, and you were doing that a little bit today, although your pace slowed down toward the end of your speech. You told us a lot about your accomplishments over the years, and I think if you had enumerated fewer accomplishments, you would have had more time to slow your pace down a little bit. But all in all, that's an excellent journey that you shared and a fine example for anyone just beginning their path in Toastmasters. You've told us a little bit about the history, how the books evolved, and where we go next in Toastmasters. So thank you, Margot. I'm glad you found your way and you're enhancing and continuing to challenge yourself in your Toastmaster career. Thank you, Madam Overlord, Dark Empress.
Thank you, Jackie. I will take either title. You can all just call me any title. I like titles. Who knew? Our second evaluator today, evaluating Carol Ann, is Nancy. Nancy, tell us how she did.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. And Carol Ann, thank you, especially for allowing me to do an evaluation on your second part of your journey. I was interested to hear how it turned out because we only heard a little portion of it last time. And to get onto the land was the whole, I wasn't sure, the whole cruise was 14 days. That included the land, correct? Yeah, okay. You really excelled at giving us an imagery account of your onshore portion of your Hawaiian cruise. You took us through Tacoma and Maui and the Iowa Valley, the Rainbow Falls, the volcanoes, Honolulu, pineapples. You even unexpectedly tasted some Hawaiian coffee that you enjoyed. The winding buses, Diamond Head. I enjoyed how your voice inflection really expressed your disappointment with the shortened museum tour. And when you spoke at the end of your 15-day cruise, you dropped your shoulders and you had this very sad expression on your face, which means to me that you really need to make another plan to go on a great trip like that. You may want to work on your background. It was a bit distracting. Also, hold your props up for a little bit longer. You showed us a bracelet that just flew by. I would have liked to see it for a moment longer. And the picture was just a little bit difficult to see of the chaplain. I would have loved to see it better. And of course, that's part of our complicated technology here. You may want to explore different ways of showing those. You may want to challenge yourself to smile a little bit more in your speech. But overall, great speech. I think you, again, definitely need to schedule another trip. And I definitely like to hear about it again. Thank you so much for sharing with us on your journey.
Thank you, Nancy. Our third and final evaluator today, evaluating Steve, will be Dave Licata. Dave, tell us how Steve did.
Mistress Overlord, I can't begin to tell you how blown away I am by Steve's stagecraft, which this morning equaled his speechcraft. So I'm going to wait till the end of the meeting when Steve rolls the credits and I can find out who was in charge of stage decoration, because they did an outstanding job. Now, this incredible background that he provided us this morning, what an excellent way to, wait for it, what an excellent way to suck the audience in. He got our attention right off the bat with that incredible background, that decor, and he really, he hit the spot. Now, my only suggestion is there is a difference between being on stage and being on television and being on Zoom. And Steve, this is, it's not minor. If you had managed to make more eye contact with your camera, that would have been much better. And we could all learn how to do that on Zoom, that's for sure. Now, my other recommendation is that it would have been a little bit more perfect if you had been surrounded by, I don't know, 5 or 6 young ladies with incredible perforated hickeys. That would have been that would have lent itself to your Dracula theme a little bit better. But I know that at this early hour, it's hard to round up supporting actresses, so it's not easy. But I want to share with the Toastmasters at this meeting this morning that I couldn't agree more with Steve about Louis Jourdan. That 3-chapter special miniseries on educational TV has stayed with me to this day. And that was excellent that he brought that up. It was excellent that he referred to the other actors that had the part. We enjoyed the fact that he critiqued their performances and he evaluated these Hollywood icons. And I'm going to share, once again, kudos for his outstanding preparation. And I want to share with Steve that of all the monsters, Dracula scares me the most because vampires aren't that far-fetched. I would like to hand the power of the lectern or the power of Zoom back to our Madam Overlord.
Thank you, Dave. And I would like to go ahead and get a timers report. Phil, tell us how our evaluators did for time.
Madam Overlord, apologize for the delay. I'm trying to write and do everything at once. It's a new challenge for me I'm trying to take on. However, I did get all the times. Thank you, Lenny, for being a backup. It helps me out a lot. Jackie came in at 222.38, Nancy 227.42, and Dave at 306.02. Madam Overlord.
Thank you, Phil. So it sounds like all of our evaluators qualified, Dave with the buck. So go ahead and send your votes in via private chat to Len. Fellow Toastmasters, we got through our 5 core competencies to help you survive the zombie apocalypse. Taking a page out of Beth's book here. And I'm going to remind you what those 5 core competencies are that you will get out of Toastmasters. 1, public speaking. 2, interpersonal communication. 3, strategic leadership. 4, management. And 5, confidence. So Toastmasters will help bring all of these things to you so that you can survive the zombie apocalypse. I would like to now turn our meeting over to our general evaluator, Eric Schneider. Eric.
Madam Overlord, thank you very much for a very entertaining theme of the meeting today. I learned so much about how to survive a zombie apocalypse. I think you should host your own show. Anyway, there's another for you. I would like to say to our evaluators, Jackie, thank you so much for evaluating Margot. And Justin, like you said, it's hard to evaluate a distinguished Toastmaster, but you really gave a good sandwich approach on everything that you have listened to throughout her speech. Nancy, also, she did a wonderful job. I know she, with little technical difficulties, but she really delivered such good, detailed speech evaluation for Carol Ann. But I do have a suggestion for Carol Ann, maybe for future speeches, practice like putting a computer on a platform or something and try working with some more gestures and stuff like that. And Dave, the yellow sweatshirt really threw me off a little bit, but very colorful. But you gave very good evaluation with Steve's speech. And I did like the word critique. I like that word. And also, Dave will have to get you to a haunted house and maybe Steve can scare you from behind. No? Okay. And with that, that's all I have. And Jen, do you want me to go ahead with the job holders, or would you like to take over that?
It's up to you. Either way is fine.
All right, well, I'll take over. All right, I look back at my sheet. Our grammarian, Larry Eggert. Larry, how did we do with our grammar today?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Good morning again, fellow Toastmasters. I did decide, by the way, that I now have a new speech, and it's linking zombies to politics. And I'm looking forward to giving that speech in the near future. Certainly a lot of similarities there. Anyway, so for grammarian, I have a bit of a tin ear with grammar, and I admit my faults with that. So I look more for things that I would relate to. So I look for people dropping the EDs and the INGs on words, and there really weren't that many. There was a few gonnas and shouldas, but really 3 or 4 maybe total for everybody. So I thought that was good. Beth and Jen, it's a small mind that only thinks a word can be said one way. I like apocalypse. I thought that was pretty good. And you must have infected Jen because she said it a little later. Beth, I like the term, I forgot what I forgot, I think is what you said in the beginning, which tells me you didn't have your coffee before you sit on the meeting. Marty had a couple restarts, and I like the what the hell is going on? That woke me up. Tom had one so, otherwise a perfect performance, Tom. Moklis, dreaming of dancing with zombies. I'm not really sure how to address that. I guess just a personal preference maybe for you. I do like the thriller movie, by the way. Margot, speaking from an echo chamber, but other than that, it was a good presentation. I like the word snail mail, Aggie culture. Thought that was, it took me a while to figure out what that was. So I didn't have enough tea this morning. Steve, I gotta listen to this. He's Count Dracula, and he says, countless actors and countless movies about the Count. I don't even know if you heard yourself saying that, Steve. That was awesome. Jackie, persevering. Nancy had one restart, and that is my report, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Larry. Our gesture master, Sylvia, how did we do with our gestures today?
Well, I have a list of things today. I started before the meeting started. I was watching people. I noticed through Zoom, I touch my face a lot. And I noticed Tom does too. Just to let you know, Tom, you had your hand holding your head up, it looked like, but it not really holding it up. It was really cool. Margot with her cat helping her drink her coffee this morning. Carol Ann taking off her glasses, putting on her glasses. Mocha's background was really cool. That was kind of eerie. Tracy putting her hand to her heart when she was talking that she worked for the government. Kate, while she was thinking, she was scratching her head. She looked very uncomfortable there for a few minutes, scratching her head and but then you used your hands. I seen a little bit of your hands with the screen. Margot had many gestures, believe it or not. Being the long speech, she had, she was standing. She used her hands a little bit, moved into the camera, moved out of the camera, rolled her eyes a lot when she didn't like something. That was funny. Carol Ann showed pictures and her bracelets. Facial expressions was good. Steve used his hands quite a bit, and you could tell he was real theatrical about it. It was the right timing for those hands to be shown. And Jen, of course, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was good. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. Our master, Dr. Stevens. How did we do today?
Mr. General Evaluator, the overlord of AM Lockport as president. We did pretty good overall with the ahs and ums. Eric had a couple. We had a variety today. Apparently I did a no. Jen pointed that out. Tom had a so. Kate had an okay. Margot, sneaky with your filler words. She had a well and a now as fillers, little different ones. Carol had 4 of wide variety. And Nancy had 1 Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stevens. All right, everybody, get ready to be quizzed on our quiz master, Charlie Deacon. Charlie.
Well, I have a few questions here. What did Tracy order a lot of?
Toilet paper.
Yeah. What film did Katie like?
Hocus Pocus.
Hocus
Right. Hocus
yeah.
Pocus. Margot first went to a meeting of a Toastmasters. What year?
1998.
1997, October. 97, yeah.
Right. And how long did it take her to get her CTM?
9 months.
9 months, right.
Not her DTM.
She said CTM.
Yep. Oh, CTM. Sorry, Charlie.
Carol, I lost a lot of, I don't hear it so much, but one thing that stuck on my mind, what drink did Carol like?
The coffee.
Coffee. And Steve liked the film. What year was it that film?
1931.
Right. That's my quiz.
Thank you, Charlie. And we can't forget our word master, overlord, Mark Campos.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters. Your word overlord is most pleased today. This could be the longest wordmaster report in history if I truly subjected you to it, but I won't. The word was used quite often today. It was used multiple times in the chat by Moklis, Jackie, and Larry. Larry with a variation of overlordus, very clever. But by my count, I believe everyone that spoke today used the word most multiple times, and leading the pack with a staggering 8 times apiece were Tom and Phil. Kudos to you both, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wordmaster. That's actually a good word for today. All right. Before I get into the winners this morning, I would like to welcome our guests for feedback, and I will start with our District Director, Linda Lathrop. Linda.
Thank you, Eric. I've enjoyed your meeting a lot this morning. It's a little different than some that I go to, but I enjoyed the fact that almost everybody who was in the meeting had a meeting role. And it expanded that sense of responsibility for each person to be an active participant. So I just really think that that is one of those glows for your meeting that I would share with other folks as I visit other clubs and give it to them as a grow. The more people that are involved, the more fun the meeting is, the more educational, and the more people that attend. So congratulations on a wonderful meeting this morning. I've enjoyed hearing that word overlords, sitting here thinking the whole time, oh my goodness, I must be the overlord of the district. And I had not contemplated that before. So thank you for inviting me, and I enjoyed your meeting very much.
Thank you so much, Linda. Hope we see you again real soon. And our guest, David Jones from Quinn City. David.
Morning. It was a great meeting as always. One thing I did like was, and I've seen him do it before, is Moklis trying to engage the first-time member. I remember when I started at Toastmasters, I was so scared, and I wish I had spoken more, and I like how he tries to engage them. It didn't work out today, but at least he goes for it. So I think that's always an important thing to do, is engage the new members. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for joining us this morning, David. And our guest, Malik Stubbs, he said he enjoyed the meeting and he hopes to come back real soon. So we thank you for also joining with us this morning. All right, on to our winners this morning. Our best table topics winner this morning, and I know she left, but Tracy Farrell is our best table topics. Our best evaluator, Dave Licata. Congratulations, Dave. And our best speaker is Count Dracula, Steve Smith. Congratulations. Are there any final announcements this morning before I adjourn the meeting?
Yes, Eric, I have an announcement.
Go ahead, Marty.
Yes, on behalf of the Buffalo Flyers Sodexo Toastmaster Club, I just wanted to make a brief announcement. We have a meeting next Tuesday, and we have 4 open roles. It's a Zoom meeting. We meet from noon to 1, or 11:45 until 1 next Tuesday. We need a topics master, a timer, an evaluator, and a general evaluator. So if anyone can help out, get back to me as soon as you can. Be much appreciated. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Marty.
fellow members.
Marty, can you send us an the
I
email,
sent
the
an
link?
email this, I think late last night or early this morning to the membership.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Marty.
Thank you.
All right, if there are any other final announcements, I would like to say thank you all for joining us this morning. Host Toasties is up next, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the week and the weekend. And Sylvia Baptiste is our Toastmaster for next week, so I know that Sylvia will, she's like, me? So Sylvia will be our Toastmaster next week. I know she'll have a theme for the meeting, right, Sylvia?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Thanks for reminding me. Okay.
No problem. Everybody have a good weekend. We'll see you all next week. Thank you.